On Tuesday, Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee introduced two critical bills in the Parliament. One to bring the banking sector in sync with current developments, and the other was the constitutional amendment bill to facilitate the introduction of goods and services tax. These are probably the most important economic reforms bills that the government hoped to introduce this year. Banking sector, because that's the lubricant to the real sector. That's what's going to keep the real economy growing, and we are in the process of probably bringing corporate groups back into the banking sector again, as in there's a lot of discussion between the government and the RBI on allowing industrial houses to float banks. RBI wants to arm itself with a lot more power before industrial houses can be brought in. For instance, RBI wants the power to supersede a bank's board for an entire year if it's unhappy with the way it's being run. So today the government introduced a bill which gave RBI these powers. In addition to that, it introduced a few other changes that would allow banks to raise a lot more capital, because every loan that's given has to be backed by a certain amount of the bank's own capital. They've freed up some of these areas to allow banks to just raise the money, grow faster, and thereby help the real economy too. The other critical change that the government tried to introduce today was the goods and services tax constitutional amendment bill. This is perhaps the most radical and the most important tax reform that one is going to have in the next, looking ahead up to the next two and a half decades. The idea is to create a common market in India which would eventually translate into lower business costs and then maybe lower prices for the consumers. Now, it's a very contentious bill. Talks have been deadlocked between centre and states, and by introducing the bill today, the centre has made one more big attempt to try and move things forward. I hope that by the middle of next financial year, not the next financial year, pardon me, the year after that, that is 2012-13, that GST will be introduced. It's a positive sign that the government, regardless of its political problems, is willing to go ahead and push its economic reforms agenda.